Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, May 29th, 2025. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Detlef Kurtke and I share the results of our Helles experiment, where we brew the same recipe and compare the effects of a step mash versus a single infusion mash, and his system versus mine. Steve Wilkes joins us to help judge and compare the beers. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. And many thanks to the new Patreon subscribers who are signing up every week. Your help is very much appreciated. Steve and I are set to shoot videos next week. I'll have 3 beers to share, and he'll have 2. He did have 3. But something catastrophic happened. I'll wait for him to share the details of that in a future show here. Financial supporters will get behind-the-scenes videos, early releases, and recipes from what we shoot next week. Speaking of next week, we may or may not have an audio show next week, so if we don't show up in your feed next week, don't panic. But if we do, then act like I didn't say anything about it. Just act like nothing happened. Remember pre-pandemic when we'd take the entire month of June off? Susan and I bottled the next round of Hop Sampler the other day. I'm really looking forward to tasting that one. I did Nugget, Harlequin, and Cryo Pop. And I've got 3 more hop varieties that I can't remember what they are, waiting in the wings. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that next round of Hop Sampler in the next day or two. They're so easy to do. I sneaked my first sample of my 12% ABV Harlequin UK Triple IPL a couple days ago. It's not carbonated yet. It's bottle conditioning, so it's flat, but it shows a lot of promise. I can't wait to share that one with the guys. I'm thinking about sending out hop samplers to everybody else that we chat with on the show regularly, because we got 7 beers out of every gallon jug this time. I shared the wealth a little bit with Steve yesterday because he took home a packet of Imperial yeast L51 Never from our friends and sponsors at Imperial that I had in the beer fridge. I had to clarify, I had the yeast in the beer fridge, not our friends and sponsors at Imperial. That would be awkward. But they wouldn't get thirsty. They'd be chilly, but they wouldn't be thirsty, at least at first. Steve says he wants to brew a nice, clean, simple Pilsner with the L51 Never, and I applaud and encourage that choice. Great choice. He and Detlef sampled my lager that's a salute to Canada that I brewed with Canada malting pale and maple syrup and Never, which is a strain from Canada. The big 12% beer was fermented with the dregs of that Maple Canada beer, and boy, both of them turned out really well. The beers we're tasting on this show were brewed with Imperial L29 Looker, which is a southern Czech strain. Both Detlef and I fermented our beers without a starter, just pitching those 200 billion cells from the Looker pouches into our moderate gravity wort at lager temperatures. Both beers came out very clean and nice. And I still have 2 pouches of L55 Kanpai in the fridge. And I asked y'all for suggestions of what to do with that Japanese strain, and I get an email from Clayton in California who says, get with the folks you interviewed from the university that grows and tests the rices to collaborate on a rice lager recipe. Or just 75% pills and 25% flaked rice. Well, that, of course, Clayton, is a great idea. The folks at the University of Arkansas are doing a lot with different strains of rice, including brewing with it, as you've heard on this show, and I bet they've got some fun stuff to play with. Get you some lager strains to play with yourself from Imperial, L51 Never, L55 Kanpai, and L29 Looker. Ask your local homebrew shop about those, along with all the dependable deliciousness. And as always, you can check them all out at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. Now, a few weeks ago, Detlef and I got together on this show to design an experiment. He wanted to know if the step mash that he traditionally does on his system is worth all the time and effort. Well, we brewed some beers to check that out. Detlef Kortke, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Well, thank you for having me again.
And Steve Wilkes, welcome back.
Together again for the first time.
Here we are on the patio outside, and we've got two beautiful-looking beers in front of us. This is an experiment that you suggested, Detlef. Mm-hmm. So what do we got going on here? What do we do?
Well, I mean, we decided to brew the same beer with different processes. You with yours, and I with mine, which is...
There's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah, which is you're brewing in a bag. I do that step mash thing in my brewing system. So, and the idea was to see if the two beers that come out of these two different processes with the same recipe taste different or taste the same. And if they do taste the same, I'm tempted to change to brewing in a bag.
Now, I was going to take a picture of our beer. Anybody still have a functioning on phone that we could take a picture of the two beers side by side? Because I was getting audio interference with mine, and so I turned it off. I usually take a picture. So we've got one cup in front of us labeled A and one labeled B. I know which is which, but you guys don't. And so it'll be interesting. There's a gnat on yours. It'll be interesting to see if we can tell the difference.
So I'm not sure I know what's going on.
Well, that's par for the course, isn't it?
Right. But these are both are these both your beers, James? The A and the B?
No. One of them is the beer that I brewed.
Oh, okay.
One of them is the beer that Detlef brewed. Now, remind us of your system and your procedure in going through the brew.
All right, yeah. So I have a brewing system, a German Klarstein, which is similar to the Grainfather. Mm-hmm. And so it's a brewing in one pot, so to speak, with a colander inside, and you lift it out, so you do the mash and everything in that one pot. And but I do a step mash. So I dough in at 95, then I go to a protein rest at 125, then a 143 for 45 minutes, and then a 162 for 45 minutes, and then a 172 for 10 minutes mash out.
But the good thing is that it's all automated.
Yes, so that there's a little computer in that brew pot, and I just program that all in, and then it just runs through those steps. Nice. So I only have to come back then for the sparge. Mm-hmm. And then once I'm sparged, then I go to the 60-minute boil or whatever the boiling time is.
And so mine, as most people know, if you've watched the videos, I've still got my Warthog system. And I start with all 8 gallons of the brewing water at once. 8 gallons or 30 liters. And I dough'd in at 158 degrees Fahrenheit or 70 C to hit my mash rest temperature of 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C. And I rested there for 90 minutes. That's it. I didn't do a mash out. I didn't raise the temperature. I just sat at that and recirculated. Both of our systems recirculate the wort over the grain. So, I just recirculated during that time. I would come and stir take the lid off and stir the grain every now and then just to make sure that, everybody's happy there. And you actually came by the house as I was brewing. So what did you think of my setup? Primitive?
No, I mean, it is actually really nice. I mean, this is a very simple system. And I mean, this is why I'm curious, if I'm overdoing it with my step process there, because obviously it adds time to it, and you don't even have to sparge with your system.
Right.
And so I'm really just curious on if the output, the resulting beers are the same, or if there is a tasteable difference,
And I just, at the end of the mash, I raised the colander with the bag in it, and I actually squeezed the bag.
Right.
And then I chilled down to the pitching temperature of, what did we decide, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what, 15.6 C?
Yes.
Let's go over the recipe. We've got 9 pounds or 4 kilograms of Weyermann Pilsner malt. And I'm hearing your phone now, Detlef. There we go. We have either poorly shielded phones or poorly shielded mic cables or a little of both. So 9 pounds or 4 kilograms of Weyermann Pilsner, 1 pound or 450 grams of Cara Pils. And we use distilled water because you brought up the point at the end or at the end of our discussion last time when we set this up that we're not sure that we have the same water. We're probably both on the Beaver Water District. But just to make sure, we started with distilled water, and I gave you a little care package of minerals, and it didn't take much to reach. And I went through Brewfather, the application, and I dialed in light colored lager, I think was the profile. So we added to that distilled water, we added 0.29 grams of gypsum, 0.4 grams of calcium chloride, and 0.2 grams of Epsom salt. And you, since I started out with 8 gallons, you also started out with 8 gallons, even though you didn't, at least you didn't need it all at once.
Right. I filled up my hot liquor tank with a full 8 gallon and mixed it with the salts.
Right.
And then I basically let that cold water get into my brewing system. My mash is usually about 1.5 quarts per pound.
Right.
And then I kept the rest in the hot liquor tank, and then I started heating that one up to the 172 for the sparge.
Okay. So Detlef thinks of things that I might not have, Steve, which is good. He's got an engineering background. He's probably smarter than me. So
It's pretty smarter than both of us combined, to be honest with you.
Come on,
We have
guys.
journalism degrees.
well, and you get both of us together, I think we each lose IQ points.
Yes, we do. Yes.
So we boiled for an hour, and at the beginning of the 60-minute boil, we added 2 ounces or 56 grams of Czech Sats at 2.5% alpha acid. Again, boiled for 60 minutes. At 15 minutes before the end of the boil, we added 1 ounce or 28 grams of Hallertauer Mittelfrüh, also at 2.5% alpha acid for that last 15 minutes. Now, here's where we get a little different. My original gravity was 11.2 bricks or 1045. Do you remember what your...
That's why I was looking on the phone.
Go ahead and look, because I think you texted me. I think
Yeah,
yours
that's
was a
what I
little-
was looking at, the
You're-
text that I sent you. Let me just...
Yeah, go ahead.
I wish I could paint you guys a visual of this.
Detlef's arms are getting longer as he.
So,
Now can you read from there?
yeah.
Wow.
So my original... No, that was yours. Hold on.
It seems like it was like 1050 or something like that. It seems like yours
Yeah, I was a little higher.
a little higher than
Yeah.
mine. And then I finished it at 1008 for an ABV of 4.8%. And going into the keg, I mean, I got all the beer that I could out of the carboy, and it almost filled the keg to the top. I mean, so it was. I had good efficiency, I guess you could say.
So you guys didn't try to, in your case, I'll say boil down to the same original gravity. You didn't
No.
agree in advance like we're going to hit 1010 and
No.
or I should say start at 1050 and
No.
go down.
No, I think we just wanted to follow our individual
Okay,
brewing processes.
right.
So I found it. It's the original gravity in my case was 1050, starting with a pre-boil gravity at 1044.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My pre-boil was 1035.
Oh.
So, so I,
Well, this all makes sense to me. So here I am, the third leg of this stool, and you don't want to look there. Anyway, but it makes sense because the brew in the bag is going to be a little less efficient. There's still a bunch of sugar left on that grain when we throw it out. You're getting all the sugar and probably a more efficient mash. But does it matter?
But the difference between 1045 and 1050 ain't that much.
No. I just mean,
I mean-
just just
Right.
as
No,
a parlor game.
No, you're correct. You're correct to chime in and give your expert commentary. So we fermented with L29 liquor at 60 with no starter, and and it was interesting because mine started the next day. I was seeing bubbles. And the next day after you pitched, you were like, there's no activity. And the day after, nope, nothing. And I was like, take the lid off, Detlef. Let's see what's going on in there. And there was evidence of fermentation. And it turns out you had a leaky gasket.
Okay.
Yeah, I have mine is not a carboy.
Right.
Mine is a SS Brewtech conical. And apparently that seal or the rubber gasket on the lid didn't seal it completely off. So it was working, but the CO2...
You couldn't see it. One advantage of having the glass carboys, they're heavy and they're dangerous, but you can see what's going on.
I know. I still have one, and I use it in the summer when I'm doing my beers with Craig, because then I can leave it in the hot ground. So yeah, that was, and so I fixed the lid, and then it was bubbling.
So everything was good.
Yeah.
And apparently from the numbers, the yeast worked just fine.
Yeah.
So should Steve, talk about what we see here?
I see, with my little eye, I spy two beers that actually look almost identical to my eyes. I think, at least in this light, they're both pale yellow. They're both a little bit cloudy, a little bit, I don't want to call it hazy, but a little bit cloudy. They definitely look like a commercial beer. I mean, they don't look, I don't know what homebrew is supposed to look like, but sometimes they look pretty funky. These look, like you'd poured it out of a commercial beer bottle. And I don't know whose is whose, but I think the B is slightly darker, but I am really splitting hairs. And you guys might disagree with me. It might just be my eyes. It might just be the shadows and light.
Yeah, it's really hard.
It's really, they're very, very similar.
When you move it around, you can
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
darker.
You can make either one darker or lighter.
It's really
And I know which is which, so I'm going to try to reserve comments as much as I can, because I don't want to tip either way.
Now, I would also say, I don't know if it's time to say this or not, but in the bouquet or the aroma, I think A has quite a bit more aroma. And it seems to be malty. I get a really nice little malty. It's almost like bread. Almost like it smells really very bready. It smells really good to me.
Oh, and we both did a diacetyl rest. I did mine 3 days into the fermentation, and then I brewed on the 3rd, and I kegged on the 16th. So I wanted to make sure that it had plenty of time to clear.
So I assumed that mine started at the same time because I didn't see it, right? And so I also did then after 3 days the diacetyl rest and pumped it up to about 66, 67 Fahrenheit, 18, 19 C.
Okay. Now, Detlef, are you experiencing the same nasal sensations?
It is that time of year.
No. Yeah, I smell a little more aroma on A.
Yeah.
So it
doesn't smell like hops to me, though. It smells like malt.
Yeah.
There is a difference. I'm not sure how to describe it, but there is a slight difference.
I mean, when we were talking about the processes, your system is a 230-volt system, so you get probably a stronger boiling roll.
Well, you sent me some YouTube video of your system, and your system is a pretty vigorous boil, I'd say.
I'm happy with it. So
yeah,
I didn't see yours in the boil. I was just here for the mash, and so I thought it was okay. The boil I get, mine is just a 110-volt system with 1800 watts,
but it rocks and rolls.
And it was pretty. I think it's pretty good rolling boil on that thing. So the reason why I mentioned this is because we have been talking before that yours may get a little darker color because you get more caramelization with a higher wattage in it.
That's one theory.
Yeah. So I don't know how that would affect the taste. Probably it would be.
Well, speaking of taste, shall we taste
Either
A?
that or we're going to be doing a skunking show pretty quick. We are outside.
Well, but it is cloudy, though.
That's true.
It's misty out here in Prairie Grove.
I get misty. That's lovely. That was A. A is lovely. I get B seems to have a little bit more hop bite to me. They're both delicious beers.
I get lemony. It's a little bit
In which beer? Or in both beers?
in A. I think it's a little light and lemony.
Yeah, I think A is a little bit lighter beer. I would agree. I think it's a little more herbal, and I would go with lemon. It's a little
Although
more citrusy.
both of them, I mean, it's very similar.
Very similar. And on a hot day and a stiff wind, you would never know the difference. But when we're splitting hairs for the purpose of the show,
And it may be because I just tasted A first.
yeah.
Maybe that's why.
So
I should have.
taste on the B a little bit more hop,
Yeah.
a little more bitterness.
I get a little bit more, bitterness.
on the B. On the A side, I mean, I'm not a very good taster, so to speak. On the A side, I feel there's also a little bit more malt character. I don't know. I mean, does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I personally attribute that there's more malt character because there's less hop bite. I'm picking up the malt
Yeah.
more clearly.
A is to me. There are more high notes to the flavor to me, and maybe that's why I said lemony.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's more high notes. That's right. I've got the AB normal.
Abby, somebody.
Abby somebody.
What was on the glass? Heavy normal.
Abby normal. It's pronounced Igor. Oh, man. Those are great beers, guys. Those are good beers.
Now, what do you think of the beers?
I mean,
you brought us the gold standard.
I'm
here.
actually very curious about that.
Yeah, I
really
mean-
want to bounce it off of this.
I think it's close to the Munich Helles that I brought. I mean, I just tasted that yesterday at home, and that's
So
what
what did you bring us? What is this? beer?
It's from the Hofbräu in Munich, which is a very old brewery, and that's one of the traditional Bavarian Helles Munich beer. I mean, there are obviously multiple breweries that make a Helles
Right.
in Bavaria, probably several hundred, but
But these are the first guys to do it?
uh,
I mean, commercially.
earlier ones
that we know
commercially.
of.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
Weihenstephan, which
Yeah.
is older than Hofbräu, and they also have a Helles, but this is probably the more popular one here, and they sell.
And I've done an interview with someone who was a brewer at a Hofbrauhaus here stateside, and they brew. They're very strict on their procedure, as they should be. But they do things like decoction and things like that we did not do.
Right.
So that it'd be interesting to see to taste these side by side.
So
what about the? Oh yeah, talk about
I was looking around a little bit after I bought that beer here, and I was going to the Hofbräu house website, and usually they are very tight-lipped about their ingredients, but apparently they have a detail section where they actually give a little bit insight of what they put in there. And talking about the process, it's an infusion mash that they use.
Oh, okay.
That's what they say, infusion process.
Oh, okay.
And looking at this, obviously our recipe is a little different. I mean, they talk about the hops, Hercules, Pearl, and Spalt Select, which is different. And we use Pilsner malt and Carapils in our recipe. And they talk about just pale malt and Munich malt, which I assume is the Munich one, the Munich Light.
Right.
Because it has about the same color, this one, the Hofbräuhaus.
And again, we use Czech Sots to go with the Looker Czech yeast and Hallertau Mittelfrüh.
Right. And those are very popular in brewing in Bavaria too. I mean, the Czech Saaz, and they actually grow Czech Saaz in the hop region in Bavaria too.
Oh. So now Steve has walked away for a second. So talk about your perceptions of the body of the beer, the malt character, because we're the difference is in the mash essentially. The rest of the recipe is the same.
Right.
So are you picking up any differences between the mouthfeel or the malt character or between the two beers?
It is very subtle. I mean, they're very close, and I think A has a little bit more mouthfeel, where B, I think, that's my perception, where B, like I said before, has more a hoppy character. So when I taste B, it reminds me actually a little bit more of a Pilsner than a Helles.
Okay.
I mean, it's not close to a Pilsner, but I mean, it that direction, where A is more or closer to what I'm used to a Helles.
Okay.
So, but it's very subtle.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm picking up a whole lot of difference, to tell you the truth, in the mouthfeel.
Yeah, maybe it's just because of the malt is a little bit more dominant in A than it's in B. But I like I said, I mean, I am not very good in picking up those subtleties. My response to beer is rather visceral.
That stuff's good. No, I think that you've probably had a lot more experience with the style than I have, or Steve has probably. So you probably are able to pick up more subtleties than we maybe. Steve is on his way back. It'll be interesting to see what he says.
Yeah.
No. So I'm not picking up any defects. There are no flaws in either one.
Not at all.
There's no butteriness. There's no diacetyl. When I first kegged my beer, I got a little bit of corniness, a little DMS, which is appropriate for a beer this light, with this much Pilsner. I'm not getting that now in either one of these.
I don't get any of that kind of stuff.
So while you were away, Steve, I asked Detlef his perceptions of the mouthfeel of the beer, because we're testing for what the effect of the different mashing schedule had. So, what are your impressions of the difference, if any, between the mouthfeel, the malty character, anything along those lines that you might attribute to the mash profile?
Very slightly, I believe that the B beer is a little maltier. It's a little richer to my taste. And the A beer is a little lighter. It's actually more like I would expect the Hofbrau to be. It's a little. The B beer is a little richer. Mouthfeel seems to be a little bit more mouthfeel. It just seems to be a little bit more substantial beer to me. I don't know how I'm out of articulated words, but yeah, but they're both great beers, and I think I prefer B. I know we're not at that point of the show yet, but
okay.
I kind of really, I'm drinking it faster. That's for sure.
I keep it.
Now you've got yours reversed. A is, or which way? Yeah, okay, yeah. Your B is opposite from. But so both of you said that A was more similar to the commercial example.
Oh, I'll be darned! Wow.
But Detlef, you said A was more malty. Now, it could be your definition, didn't you? It could be your definition of what maltiness is.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about a test like this. These beers, yeah, they're a little bit different, but they're not very much different.
No.
And so, exactly, I mean, what hits me as malty may not. If they were hugely different, like you had an Optimator versus this, well, then, yeah, okay, this is more malty. So that's easy. This is tough because they're essentially the same beer.
No, I mean, maybe I can switch this around and say maybe A is not more malty, it's less hoppy. You know, I mean...
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, and then, so that could very well be.
Yeah. Because I still think that B has a little bit more bitterness or IBUs than A.
I do too.
Yeah?
It's a little bit more bitter, but I also think it has a little bit more malt backbone.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit.
Now, as far as preference, I'd be hard-pressed to say which one I like better because they're both, in the very, 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 very subtle differences, I like in each of them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, this is interesting because, I mean, I like them both.
Yeah, I like it. They're both very good beers.
And so, I mean, to our point, I mean, there is a slight difference
Right.
in the outcome, right? But, I mean, it's very subtle.
Yep.
And it's not that one makes a better beer than the other.
Right. They're
There's
just a little different.
tiny little difference.
And to be fair, as we said in our initial discussion, there's so many variables in this experiment. We tried to narrow most of them down.
Yeah.
But we were brewing on different systems. In addition to the different mash rest schemes, we have I'm brewing a bag with all of the brewing water at once. You are, you sparge at the end of your process. So that's different. So it's almost like comparing apples and oranges, but these apples and oranges taste pretty similar.
Yeah. And I think both beers, because I noticed, I mean, it's a week now, or a little over a week that we kegged.
I kegged on the 16th. Today is the 27th,
yeah,
so 11 days ago.
So I think both beers would benefit from a longer lager time. Because I already noticed a change in the taste of my beer over these 11 days.
Right.
I think like 20, 30 days, it'll be even better.
Well, they'll be a little more clear, one would assume.
That too, yeah. But I mean, this is homebrews. They are still alive, we don't pasteurize, so they change just like wine does over time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, again, A, I think, is a little more lemony. There's a little, the higher notes are more distinct in A. And I don't know what to attribute that to, whether that's hop character or...
It's just lighter on the palate.
Yep.
Just a little bit.
But they
still
finished
plenty malty.
the finishing gravity, I think, was pretty similar, right?
I think mine was 1.010.
Okay, mine was 1008.
Yeah.
Again, according to my hydrometer.
Yeah.
So very similar.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about preference. Do you like either one better than the other, Steve?
I think that I like the B beer a little bit better. And it's only because it just tastes it just has a little bit more of that kind of graininess that I like in a beer. And I can taste the grain more than I can the A beer. And so, yeah, I prefer B, but I don't prefer it by a wide margin. I only, for the purposes of the discussion, I kind of like that one a little better. I don't know if that's, gosh, and see, I'm like, well, is that because it stayed in James's wort longer, or is that because Detlef step mashed it?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to
know.
that, but I do find that I prefer B.
Now, I mean, one of the things with a step mash when you stay at 143 and then you go to 162 is, I mean, you basically work on different sugars, right? So. And so, where you were at 150, I think,
the whole
right?
time,
yeah. So you get kind of a mixture of both, right?
Yeah, I mean at 150, as I understand it, the enzymes that convert starches to sugars are both working
Yeah.
at that range. It's just that you're not favoring one over the other at that time.
Yeah.
Or that. So Detlef, what do you think? Do you like one better?
I mean, as I said, I when I smell them, I get more of a bouquet on A than I get on B. On B, I get more of a hoppy taste when I drink it.
Right.
So if I'd have to pick one, again, it's subtle. I would pick A.
You're on Team A.
Because I mean it's closer.
I like Team A too, but I think But for me, it gets back to my old standing preference for those kind of grainy, bready British beers, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of that. Where I think A is more authentic. I just did the air quotes. but A strikes me what I would kind of I would expect that taste in a commercial German beer. This one seems a little. This one B actually reminds me more of a Czech Pils.
Oh.
It's a little rounder.
That's what I
it's a little
said when you
softer.
were gone. That this reminds me a little bit more of a Pilsner
Okay.
than a lager.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready for anything else before I do the reveal?
Well, I'm just curious if and I don't want to put Detlef on the spot.
Or
but
do you have a guess?
Oh, yeah, I do have a guess, but it's only a guess, and it's based on just. I think A is Detlef's beer, and I think B is your beer.
Detlef.
I think the same.
The same?
Same A is mine and B is yours.
You're right. You're both right.
Wow.
A is Detlef's beer. B is my beer.
There you go. I figured it was Detlef's beer because it was a little bit cleaner. No offense, James. No, your beer's perfectly clean. But his just struck me as that's a commercial German beer by somebody that knows how to make German beers. And then B is great. It's a really good beer, and it's my preference. But I was like, that's not the bottle that's not the pour I would expect if I opened this beer. I'm really curious to drink.
Well, let's
one of
open
commercial ones.
let's open the commercial example.
I'm really curious how it stacks up and where it lands, and watch it be like neither of these. It's like, oh well,
It'll be
that's
so much better that we'll both stop brewing.
I talked to James before we met here, and I said the beer I brewed is not yet where I would expect it to be compared to the German version of it.
Do you happen to know how long, say, this brewery, for instance, lagers this beer? Do you, just by curiosity?
Probably a month or so.
Okay.
Number one, it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they probably filter.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers. What do you say? Now, instead of cheers, is it
Prost.
Prost? Prost?
Yeah.
Prost.
But you can't put it down until you take a drink.
I think we did a pretty good. I think
We're close.
I mean, we're no. It's not. It doesn't measure up, but
You know what?
it's pretty close.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think it measures up very well.
Ah,
I really do. Both beers measure up very well. It's the commercial beer, the Hofbrau. It's I don't want to say it's prettier. It's not prettier, but it is clear. That is as clear as a beer could get. And but your two versions of this beer, or one like it, is, man, they're pretty darn close. I mean,
Yeah. Now
you would never know if you.
Now that I have them all next to each other, I think we got really close.
You got really, really close. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed.
we're breaking our arms, patting ourselves on the back here.
Well, but I'm the
You're the
authentic. I'm the honest voice here. I mean,
You don't have a
I don't have a dog in the hunt.
dog in the race.
Yeah.
Here's our dog. Hi, Jesse. Jesse just got back from the vet.
I knew that was your beer, Dylan.
I guess the big question is, Detlef, after tasting all of this, is going through all the time, because it's not necessarily trouble because you just set the timer and it does it itself. Is it worth the time to go through the step mash? Do you prefer your beer so much more than mine to change your or how's it?
I think.
Help me.
I think
There's
I'm
a question in there somewhere.
I think I'm gonna try it with in my system, with a single infusion, and see how it turns out. Make exactly the same beer again, and just run it through at 150 like you do, and see how it comes out.
So there's nothing to discourage you in tasting my beer. There's nothing to discourage you from trying it. You're not no, mine's so much better than
No. No, I this is the engineer in me. I just want to get to the to the inner workings of this thing, because, like I said, I was using this process because a friend of mine who is a brewer in Germany said this is what we do, and this we get good results with it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I just copied it. I mean, he didn't tell me his recipes, but he said this is the mash profile that we do to get the beer we make, and that was in Spalt. So that's why I adopted that. And when I started brewing, I mean, with my homemade mash tun and whatever, I did the same thing that you do. It's all at 150, 152, and then and the beers. I mean, I have to say that most of what I brewed at the time were ales, so that I didn't have that kind of comparison, because in Germany, really the only ale that I remember besides Weizen is the Hannen Alt.
Yeah.
That's one of the very few ales they brew in Germany.
Kolsch's an ale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kolsch's an ale.
And but that has a very different taste to it.
Completely different animal. Yeah.
And so the lager beers I have been staying away from because of the temperature problem that I have here in Arkansas. Because I have everything in the garage, and in the summer I'm up to 80, 85 in the garage.
Right.
So,
So just become a Belgian brewery.
or Kvike.
Or Kvike, yeah.
Now, I mean, with my fermenter, I showed it to you. It has this cooling coil inside. I can probably keep a 20, 25 degree Fahrenheit difference between the environment and the fermenter. But when it comes to like 30 or 35, I'm running out of options.
Right. Well, these are all really good beers. I would say that as they've warmed a little bit, and I've got all three of them still in front of me, I think that Detlef's beer is closer to the commercial standard, the Hofbrau original lager. I think those two beers are very similar. And then your beer is still very similar, but just not as similar. It's like,
I agree.
It's not as equal as the others, but it is equal.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand. I mean, this is something maybe I have to ponder a little bit on, is where that difference in taste comes from.
Right.
Because I mean, you said that too. I mean, you have a little bit more of that grainy character. You taste a little bit more of the hops of the IBUs. And I'm just trying to understand where that comes from. I mean, because that's all. What you want to do is to put something together, and controlling the output.
Right.
This is what I want, so what do I have to do here to get there?
Well, and I wonder too, when we do tests like this and comparisons and such, so even I wonder sometimes if even the humidity, I mean, even if things that you completely can't control. And because our systems aren't closed, like, say, a commercial brewery might have a completely closed system, no chance of oxidation, no chance of hot side aeration or cold side, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in our systems, sometimes homebrew is what it is. So
and it depends on, the chilling time depends on the temperature of the tap water.
Yeah.
You're not going to chill down very fast in the summertime. When the tap water is like 80 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever it is. So that that's a variable in there. We didn't time how long it took us to chill down to our pitching temperature. That's one variable we didn't track. So I don't know.
Mine was probably somewhere around 20, 25 minutes to get to the 60.
I was able to knock down the initial temperature down to like a little below 100 degrees Fahrenheit, probably, fairly quickly. And then I switched to recirculating ice water, through the immersion chiller. So, but I don't know if that would have made a difference or not. Steve's out of sample B.
Sample B. I'm telling you, that is, if this had been can you make a Pilsner Urquell or a Star Pramen,
whoa,
you would have won the medal.
Wow.
Whereas
that's high praise.
Well, but the thing was, can you brew a Hofbrau original? And you didn't win that medal, but Detlef did.
I entered the wrong category. Story of my life.
Yeah, if I was to ever brew competitively, I would just brew the beer and then ask somebody smarter than me to tell me what it is.
Yeah, exactly. What's this?
What did I brew? It's pretty good, but I don't know if it's a specialty beer or a.
Woo. Well, all right, guys. This has been very and one of the things that struck me the most is the lack of difference in color. I mean, I couldn't tell. They look pretty close to me.
Yeah.
And I was afraid that we're going to come out with mine being significantly darker, because of the more power that I have. But we don't see that. So.
No.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot really see a difference in the color. I mean, because when you turn it a little bit, now this is lighter, and you turn it this way,
right?
This is lighter.
It's an optical illusion.
How the light falls on it.
Do you guys? I'm just curious. Do either of you use fining agents of any kind?
I generally put a Whirlflock tablet in there. I can't remember if I did or not.
I put a teaspoon of Irish moss.
Irish moss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like I did put Whirlflock in there this time.
I don't use anything at the front end. I've gotten to where I might or I might not treat it with some gelatin or some sparkaloid, or if I happen to have some, the little liquid, the little 2-stage liquid thing. That works great if you're in a hurry, and gelatin too. But then I'll cold crash it overnight, and then I'll bottle. And I'm a bottler. These guys are keggers. I bottle. So.
Yeah, since they've warmed up, they've cleared up. So that's a chill haze.
I'm going to send this down to my laboratory at my doctor's office. See what he says.
It looks nice and healthy.
Looks really healthy, but I think you're diabetic.
You're right. It's a lot higher in sugar than it should be.
Although I did just have a physical, and my specific gravity came back as 1010. I'm not kidding. I was like, well, I guess I'm ready to bottle.
There was Belgian lacing in your sample.
They shook me up and held me up to the light, and apparently I'm okay.
All right. Well, let's turn off the mic and drink some more of Hellas's.
Gosh, those are good beers. All 3 beers.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, I think I will, as long as temperatures permit, brew a few more. I told you I started another one yesterday. Just very similar recipe. Instead of Pilsner, just pale malt or 2-row. And instead of the Imperial pouch yeast, the Looker, I use the very much popular yeast that is used in Germany, the Weihenstephan lager yeast.
That's the 3470
Fermentis 3470, to see. I mean, I brew most of my beers, ales, whatever, with dry yeast.
Yeah.
And very simple process. I mean, in my fermenter, what I do when that fermenter fills up from the bottom, then I just sprinkle the yeast on top. And by the time it's up, the yeast has dissolved and is inside. And that reminds me of something. Another difference in the process we might have. You use oxygen to aerate?
But you use an aquarium pump.
I use an aquarium pump. So
wow.
So that's another.
But that would have to do with probably yeast health and the speed of the start of fermentation, maybe. And again, these are both so clean that I don't think there
aren't any flaws in these unless you're trying to prove a perfect clone of that, which they're not. But they're Again, on a windy day, you'd never know the difference.
Detlef, thanks for the suggestion and thanks for playing along.
Oh, sure. It was really interesting, and I enjoyed it.
Well, thanks again to Detlef and Steve. I was pleasantly surprised that our beers were so similar and greatly relieved that mine apparently didn't suck. As always, I'm always nervous that people won't like my beers for some reason, and either I have nice and polite friends most of the time, or I usually do pretty good. Remember, we may take next week off from posting the show, but we'll be recording video episodes, so stay tuned. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Till then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.